Glitch Please, the show where we talk about video games every week and apparently cruise ships and times of day.
I want to go on a cruise to Alaska because I want to visit where Bob Ross walked. So,
don't we all?
Yeah.
Is he from Alaska?
He stayed there for a while, and he talks about all the time in his show about his time in Alaska. And how he paints things that remind him of where he was his time in Alaska.
Well, he needed to calm down because he was a sniper in Vietnam. And
that's like
it's like an urban legend.
I need a Bob Ross documentary like the recent Mr. Rogers one.
Totally.
Won't you?
Why don't you pitch one? We do documentaries here.
That would be good.
But you gotta have the reason why the Won't You Be My Neighbor one was so good is that it had access to all of that footage of Mr. Rogers and all of his like living relatives. They went and interviewed all them.
So chase it.
I should chase my Bob Ross dream.
Dude.
I love him.
That's a great idea.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Yeah. Don't steal this idea if you're listening. This is John.
Yeah. We talk about video games, right?
Yeah, we do talk about video games on the show sometimes. Video games and Bob Ross. Look, he did have a whole marathon on Twitch, which I think makes it directly relevant.
It's still on. It's still on.
Still going?
Yeah,
nice.
They still play Bob Ross on the Bob Ross channel.
I know they
it
were.
has a schedule and everything.
I know they were doing. They started doing a run of the Pokemon.
Pokemon's gonna be a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mostly found out about it because everyone on Twitter was crying about the Butterfree episode. So I was like, all right, cool, well, there we go. I know that it's happening, and that's how I know that it's happening. We live in a weird world.
We do.
But lots of video game stuff happening. This is Spider-Man week. Actually, by the time this episode comes out, Spider-Man will be out as well. We got some early copies.
Don't we introduce ourselves on this show?
Oh, yeah. Wait, hold on. I'm Ashley.
They know.
I'm John.
I'm Brian.
I'm here to derail the show, apparently.
Yeah, we immediately took a left turn. We didn't even get our names out before we took a left turn.
Because you wanted to make commentary on what I was talking about before the cameras went live about my Bob Ross trip I want to go on. Who wants to go on a Bob Ross cruise with me? Let's all go.
Something really beautiful
Totally. Yeah.
What if you do a Bob Ross party cruise where everyone just like paints all day?
I love this idea. I love this idea. It's not even a funny idea. It's good.
And you can screen your documentary on the cruise.
Oh, I want this to be my. This is my.
Like I'm saying,
dream.
This is just go into one of the pitch meetings and there you go.
But you know what I could do on this cruise ship is I could play Spider-Man.
You could play
Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
All right, so yes, Spider-Man. This is the new game from Insomniac. This is a PlayStation 4 exclusive. Insomniac's previous game, Sunset Overdrive, I was a huge fan of. It was one of the early exclusives for Xbox One. Didn't get the kind of traction that I always hoped it would.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Was Sunset Overdrive their prior game to Spider-Man and the only game that they've made of like note?
No, they've made a ton of games. This is Insomniac we're talking about. Do you want to pull up the full list? Because it's a long one.
Yep.
All I've ever heard anybody say is Sunset Overdrive.
That's their most recent.
Because that's like their current generation thing. And it's also in a very similar format to Spider-Man. So it's like if you don't have a PS4 and you can't play Spider-Man, go play Sunset Overdrive.
It's also the game that would always come up when people would talk about exclusives for Xbox One. It's always one of the first ones, and like on forums when people would be like, "What could I play if I have an Xbox One?" This was always at the top of the list, and it was good, but it was kind of overlooked.
You ready for this, John?
Yeah, go for it.
Very long list.
They made Spyro the Dragon and all of their sequels. They made Ratchet and Clank, all of the Ratchet and Clank games.
Is the original one?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Resistance 2, Resistance 3, the big like PS2 exclusive, Sunset Overdrive, like all those games.
Yeah. So they've got a really strong.
They're Spyro. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But their new formula, the one that they had for Sunset Overdrive, what they've used for Spider-Man, is very much open world, traversal based collectathon with a lot of action adventure. Just these random combat encounters popping up all over the place, and it seems like Spider-Man is a great property for them to do that with, because I thought the formula that they had for Sunset Overdrive was really great, but it didn't have as strong of a lead through. The premise for that game was like, oh, a Red Bull drink turned everyone into like crazy orange pop
I didn't even
zombies.
know the premise of the game. I just know the mechanics of the game. I never even heard the story of the characters.
Yeah, it was a very silly, kind of a lot of meta humor about
one of their
games.
DLCs, the boss fight of one of their DLCs was their community manager.
Yeah.
So it's like they got super weird with it. They had a lot of fun, but all of those ingredients, like the referential humor and
Yeah.
self-awareness and crazy city traversal and being able to just like pop into combat really easily and then pop out and then continue about the city, just traversing all this stuff and collecting all these things. That all translates really well into a Spider-Man property.
Yeah.
So when we found out that they were making a Spider-Man game for PS4, I was really excited about it. So far, my excitement has borne out.
I'm very excited about
Very
this.
excited.
It's a wonderful game, this Spider-Man. You travel around all the places and you fight all the thugs and you get face skin, all that. I'm done. I'm not doing that anymore. That's it.
You did well. You did
Yeah.
great.
It's like a
I make
clockwork,
fun. I love.
Clockwork Orange.
Yeah,
almost.
it was very Clockwork Orange. One of my favorite things to do, and this is a tangent, and I'm here for tangents, I apologize, is make fun of my British girlfriend's accent. Because she's very posh style she talks, and I love to make fun of how she talks.
So the accent, different British accents are named. What is her accent?
She's like, as far as like the location, you would
Yeah.
say, I don't know.
Doesn't it have to do with social class over there?
That's
too?
why
like the way you talk?
that also affects it
Is
as
this
well.
like Kensington?
I don't know.
Which I don't. That is a place.
But she, good job.
Thank you.
But she has a pretty posh accent that actually a lot of people apparently mistake for either Canadian or Australian, which I've never. I'm like, no, you sound very British to me, but for some reason she'll be like in on the tube or something.
Maybe
We'll
it's
say
people
that.
who are expecting British people to all sound.
No, this is British people will say this to her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's what's so like weird for her.
Interesting. Well, Spider-Man takes place in New York. And thank you.
Nice.
And so it is fun if you go down in the city
Oh.
and you just you hear people talking. There are a lot of like New York accents.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like
A lot of
very
people walking
New
over
York-
here.
Yeah, like New York attitudes, just like walking along the street. It's
do.
a lot of fun.
I thought you were gonna reference.
But wait, hold on. Did anyone play anything besides Spider-Man this week?
No. Why would I?
did, but I didn't get
I had a
advanced
copy of Spider-Man. What was I going to play? I played some Overwatch and I played Pokemon Go, so I did play those. I did my Overwatch placements.
Your normals.
I did my normals, my constants. But I played as much Spider-Man as possible.
Okay. How's your but quick, because I feel like this is going to be a very Spider-Man oriented episode of Glitch Please. How's your Dragon Quest going?
Thank you for asking, Ashley. I've gotten a lot of messages on Twitter and stuff from people about Dragon Quest now. Like, thanks
You're
for
finding your people.
mentioning it. I know. It is great. It's
How many hours would you say you are in now?
probably 20.
Okay.
So I would say it's just as good as 8, which was the previous record holder, but I think it could be a little bit better. It's got all of the humor. There's one village that I went to where everyone speaks in haiku for some reason,
cute.
which is very cute. It is. It's also, if you like RPG and fantasy tropes, it's got a ton of them, but it's also kind of turns some on your head because it starts out, and this isn't really spoilers, but you are this kind of farm boy who's going to save the world because you've got this mark on your hand, and typically in fantasy games, you go around and kind of get everybody on your side, and all the kings and realms are like, we're behind you, let's go do this, save the world. You go to the first kingdom and announce yourself, and he goes, oh, that's great, and immediately throws you in jail.
Nice.
He's like, I don't want to deal with you. You're going to bring, hell down on earth. So like that was fun. You meet up with a thief who breaks you out, and you're off and running. And it's a big open world. It's a little bit on rails, but you're going through this open world. You're grinding. It's very, like I said in the past, it's very turn-based. It is still a very traditional game, even though the graphics have been updated and they've made some tweaks. But if you're an RPG fan, it's kind of like comfort food in a way. That's how I can describe it. It's like the video game equivalent of like eating, I don't know, like French fries. It's great.
This is the pure stuff.
Yeah, it's if you just
I would
want
just
to.
equate it more to drugs than French fries.
They've also got a hard mode in it called Draconian Quest. Get it?
Ho ho ho.
Yeah, where you can toggle, like enemies get harder. You can play without armor if you want and try to beat the game that way. So there's like a lot of replayability there. But
I feel like I'm there with you. I watched Dragonheart this week. So
Yeah?
Basically the same.
It's basically the same thing.
and these enemies are just fucking adorable. Like they're just these big-eyed Toriyama Dragon Ball monsters.
Let's kill 'em.
let's beat the shit out of them. Yeah, it's.
I was looking for a tweet that my buddy Mikey tweeted out about Dragon Quest that I thought was interesting. He said, it very much plays like an old school JRPG
Yes.
with Unreal 4 graphics. The game doesn't pressure you. It moves at the snailest of paces. I love it.
Yeah.
And this is movies with Mikey.
There's movies with Mikey. Film Joy Mikey.
That's a great way to put it. There's also certain landmarks that are in every Dragon Quest game. You're going to find a casino at some point that's full of mini games that you can stop and just spend as much time as you want. There will be exotic dancers at some point. There's some fan service in there, which some reviewers don't like, but it is what it is.
How exotic are they exactly? And this is a pretty cartoony looking game. I'd be surprised if they're like, GTA exotic.
There's
You know what I'm saying.
a long-running joke in Dragon Quest called Puff Puff, where a stripper, she's not a stripper, but she takes you for a private dance.
Lady of the night.
Yes, and she goes, would you like a private dance? You go back into a little private room, the lights go out, all of a sudden you feel two things in between your head, and you're getting real excited because you think you're getting a real dance. Turns out she's just got two slimes she's got between your head. And it is hilarious.
So it's them paying a nod to titty dances, but then making a joke of it.
Exactly. Except you've got, and for some reason they don't attack you.
Kiki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pet slimes.
Yeah.
It's like, what's her name's two zombies in Walking Dead.
Kind of, yeah.
What was her name?
Just like that. Do they do?
What was her name?
Do they do private?
I read the
dances?
comic. Michonne.
Oh, yeah.
She had the two
Right.
castrated zombies.
I don't know if it's got it in this, but Dragon Quest also usually makes a point of befriending monsters, so you can usually
Gotcha.
kind of Pokemon style send them
That's
back
right.
to this
You said
ranch
gathering,
and
catching Pokemon
train
is over.
them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, son. He's gone to the ranch.
Exactly. So there's a lot of that. It's just
there it is.
There it is. Puff Puff. Yeah. And look at the surprise.
Weird. It's weird. It's weird.
They make no, I mean, it is a Japanese game. It is a traditional Japanese RPG. They don't stray from that. But if you like it, if you like a game that you're going to put 100 hours into easy, this is the game for you.
Okay.
It's just adorable. So I've been playing that. I beat Ni no Kuni 2 finally. So that was a lot of fun. It was just like you said, like, it's such a positive message overall. I really liked that.
It's refreshing because there's
Yeah.
so much in JRPGs in particular. There tends to be a lot of teenage angst because for whatever reason teenagers are always saving the world, and it's like it's the end of the world and everything's terrible, and then you get this where it's like, yeah, it's the end of the world, and this kid is like, if we just work together, it'll be amazing, and then it is.
Yeah,
Everyone's like, you're right, let's do that, instead of being like, well, that's some naive bullshit. Nope.
That's funny.
Its philosophy is kind of like everyone is good. Like,
Yeah.
he befriends the person who killed his father. And there's so much redemption that you never see in a video game. And I really like that.
Yeah.
People are bad, but they can just sort of people are good, but they can do bad things, which I think is what real life is like. And I liked that message behind it.
Yeah, and the initial, when the game came out, one of the big initial complaints with people was that it's too easy.
Yes.
And they did release more difficult modes.
Yeah.
So you can crank up the difficulty now so that because a lot of times you'd go into combat, and unless it was one of the sort of special boss monsters, you just steamroll over pretty much everything. You're like, oh, it's 5-10 levels above me, no problem. And
Yeah, you can get over leveled real quick.
yeah, so they did introduce some new modes to make it more difficult to scale that a little bit so that it's, it's more tailored for people who want a challenging combat experience.
Right. A lot of those
Overall, fun game.
Yeah, a lot of those grindy games. Dragon Quest is like that too. If you grind too much, you can just get way above everything else and then just roll your way through.
Yeah.
I like doing that sometimes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
All right. Now we can actually dedicate our time to Spider-Man. Whew, let's do it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Okay. So the game's out. We played it.
What's the word they would use when he would spray out his spider in comics?
Thwap.
Thwip.
Thwip.
There you go. Yeah.
So close.
Yeah.
So close.
You did good though. You did good.
Thanks, John.
So far, I gotta say, really enjoying the game.
Yeah.
It is the game that I feel like I was sold
that's
which
good.
is good. However, I will say that what you know of the story is not quite it. Like I think
Which is good.
They've done a really good job of keeping this, like, of exposing some core elements of the story while keeping a lot of it under wraps, so you can still be surprised by it.
Yeah, I get the impression there's some huge surprise at some point in the game that they haven't spoiled, but I'm excited.
There's a surprise. I wouldn't call it huge.
Okay.
There are a couple surprises, and there are some that that we specifically actually left out of our discussion because there's we did get preview copies from Sony, and they do say, like, here's please don't discuss these story elements. We want to save them so that people can be excited about them. So, which I think is understandable. You know, you don't want to go in and be like, by the way, here's absolutely everything in the game. Now you don't need to play it.
No fun.
So there are some nice surprises there. I was thinking about it a little bit more after our discussion, and I feel like some of the pacing potentially could have been done better with the story.
In particular, what?
More that it slinkies a little bit, where sometimes it'll be slow, and then it'll all like catch up at once, and then slow, catch up at once. And I felt like there are some parts of the story that could have used maybe more time or more encounters or more build-up
Okay.
to really drive home sort of like the importance and the, you know, like the power and danger of those moments.
Okay.
Whereas sometimes they did feel a little bit like, oh, another encounter.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is advancing the story, but I feel like some of them could have been built up a little bit more. But overall, that's a minor complaint.
Yeah, if I wanted to bring up a complaint that I thought about later on, it really is that the game, the hardest part of the game and the most dangerous part of the game is in some of the random encounters. In that those are the ones you die the most in. I don't think I really fell to a boss more than once, maybe at the most twice. You kind of learn their mechanics pretty quickly.
And one of the tricky things about the bosses too, or like one of the things that differentiates it from your normal encounters, is that you'll fight a boss and you'll get them to a certain point, and then it'll switch into kind of a quick time event where like you'll have to do something like press these buttons, and then it advances through a sequence of actions.
Kind of a God of War type thing?
Yeah, so where you're not specifically controlling every action, it's kind of more like a cinematic interlude, and then it goes to maybe the next phase of a fight. And it looks really, really cool.
Okay, so
but there are some times where I'd be like, that was really cool. I would have liked to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Full disclosure, because I haven't played PlayStation in eons, for some reason, my brain is like, we're going to get the square and the circle button mixed up a lot. That's what we're going to do. That's the game we're going to play. And so with those QuickTime events, I often was like, which one is it again? And have to look down at my
where you have to quickly like hit a sequence.
And so it's like hit, circle to dodge this attack, or hit, tap square a bunch of times to do this. And I would fuck it up actually. But that's because I've been playing PC for forever, and before that, Xbox.
Yeah. So, and also I find if you switch between Nintendo a lot, that becomes an issue.
Yes.
Because they're A, B, X, Y. They're sort of swapped off. Off
Yeah,
of
their
Xbox
affirmative
controllers,
button
where,
is
their
different.
their affirmative button is where the B or the circle would be on a normal controller.
Oh, really?
So,
on Switch?
Yeah,
as opposed to like the most bottom of the buttons being like kind of like the X.
Yeah, so it's not even labeling necessarily. It's like the entire setup is, you're like this one over here instead.
It's like if you ever try to swap from a PC to a Mac keyboard. It's like having to remember.
Yeah, you're like, you just stare at it for a while and go.
But other than that, I mean, yeah, the boss stuff was, and Ashley's still staring. The boss stuff was not as, not as climactic as I wish it was. But, that being said, again, the movie is, the game is fantastic, delivers what you wanted to have. The collectability is large in scale, but also large in funness. Like, you want to go around and get the backpacks and do the Harry Osborn research labs and that kind of thing. Especially because you are rewarded pretty well for the collectibles. Like, I compare it to like Riddler collectibles in Arkham. Like, that was hard and a lot, and you really didn't have a full map of where they all were. And sometimes you couldn't even do certain ones until you got a certain item. So you'd find it and be like, oh, I don't have the steel cutter I need to get to this. and then you collect it. Okay, now go collect another one, fucker. Like now collect 200 more. This one, at the very least, you can collect everything that is accessible, and once you get it, you get actual in-game token currency that then can be used on things that you have. So there's a point to it.
So it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Do you
Yeah.
get suits for
Yeah,
collectibles?
suits require.
Yes.
No, suits require
There's
tokens to unlock.
Two things. There's two different things. First of all, suits will sort of unlock as you level up,
Okay.
as in they will unlock in that you have the ability to get them now.
As in
Like, you can get this suit at level
this
7.
new suit's
Yes.
in the store now,
Got it.
Yes.
basically.
The suit store.
It is
and then
essentially.
Different suits will cost different amounts of different collectible
Okay.
tokens.
And even,
So
some
maybe there's
suits-
crime tokens.
Yeah, and
that you
some
can get.
suits
And
have,
maybe
like,
there's some research tokens from doing the
Yeah.
Harry Osborn labs, and maybe there's
challenge tokens,
challenge
backpack
tokens from
tokens,
doing.
landmark tokens.
Is there
Exactly.
are there microtransactions or is it all in-game stuff?
all
in-game.
in-game.
All right.
And it's all very easily, like, if you're down 4 crime tokens to go find 2, like, thug crimes is not very
Yeah,
hard
you
at all.
just
It's
swing
not.
around and a crime will pop up.
You are not.
Okay.
There's like a couple of suits that have some things you have to do in order to unlock them. Like there's the Black Cat suit that you have to go and find all of her items to do, and then there's another one that you have to get all the backpacks to get.
Yeah.
But other than that, they're really not. You can get all the suits, and some of them you have to unlock the tokens that you can do to get them. But it's just kind of game progression allow you to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and all of the tokens unlock fairly early
Okay.
on. So that
That's cool.
you start off, the first ones that you unlock are the backpack tokens, just because it's introducing you to the mechanic.
Because apparently
And then
Spider-Man owns 200 backpacks and has left them all around the
he
city.
actually does make a quip about that. He's like I could afford it. He's like I won this prize, whatever, but didn't feel right spending the money on this, whatever. But I did get like a lifetime supply of backpacks.
Yeah, seriously.
Or it's just something like
so
that. There's
many.
a little nod that there's 55
It's ridiculous
backpacks
that he has
around
this many
the city
fucking
that are
backpacks.
just webbed all over the place. And they all have like nice little things in them that are just cute little lore things, or like here's a recipe from a dinner that I totally messed up, or here's like a trophy from a science fair,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
They're just nice little
Here's
things.
Uncle Ben, like
His
the last
ashes.
one. A little urn.
Wow.
I love it.
I like the idea that there's just a store of a guy who like sells Spider-Man suits
Yeah.
to whoever.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, where do they come from, the ones that he unlocks? Although, you remind me about something in the story that did stand out to me multiple times in the game.
Yeah.
Aunt May makes it a point to tell Peter something along the lines of like, Ben would have been proud of you for this. And I'm like, this is 8 years into him being Spider-Man, and so she's still like bringing that up. You don't need to bring that up anymore. Like, we get it. He's done good. You don't need to keep bringing up that his Uncle Ben died, 8 years ago.
Yeah, but
Look, she's
old
still
people
breathing
love
as well.
old people love talking about tragic shit. And 8 years for an old person is nothing.
it
It's like it
seems-
happened yesterday.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a point where it's like, hey, let Peter move past it.
True.
Let him
But
have
she's got a
That
great
said-
tragic story to tell. She's never gonna.
That's right, she is.
Also, though, Aunt May is great in this.
She's
I
she's
really
more-
like Aunt May.
And
the
she's
way
older
she's
Aunt May.
portrayed.
She's not Marissa Tomei.
No, she's not
No,
Marissa
she's not.
Tomei.
She's not sexy Aunt May.
Yeah. Well, that's your opinion of her, but let's just say she's not Marissa Tomei. Okay,
Okay,
let's
she's
just
not
leave it at
Marissa
there.
Got
Yeah.
it. Not to age shame. We
Yeah,
love
not
you,
to
Aunt
age
May.
shame, just-
these are your golden years.
She's just not, dude. Golden Girls is on Hulu now, and I kid you not, I have watched half the first season. I'm loving it.
Golden Girls is wonderful.
Golden Girls is
holds
so
up- it
good.
holds up
There's
like
a
a
reason it went for
motherfucker.
7 seasons. It's
Yeah.
a good show.
I remember it at the time. We fucking loved it.
Still holds up. It's so good.
A lot of sex talk.
It's
Yeah,
so much
they
sex
were
talk, but
horny
sex
as fuck.
positive talk. It's so
Big time.
good.
Yep.
There's a lot of actually very accepting talk, conversational material on that. Like, they
Yeah.
obviously have a little bit of dated humor and that kind of thing, but it's really good. Spider-Man. So Spider-Man.
These are some great tangents we're getting off on.
This is what happens when you get an ADD kid who has way too much time on his hands to watch too much content. It's just my brain's constantly rattling off, ready to tell you that I watched Van Helsing the other night. That kind
You know
of
what though? I did too. I watched it. I started watching it on a plane like a month ago, and then I went back and finished it. That is a movie.
It's good. I love that movie now
Yeah.
because when I watched it in theaters when I was in 2004, I walked out hating it because it was just CGI vomit, and it was coming off of Hugh Jackman off of Wolverine and Kate Beckinsale in Underworld, both characters in movies that I loved. Whatever your opinions on those movies are, you can keep it yourself. But
I feel threatened.
But don't-
no, a lot of people don't like the Underworld movies. I love the fucking Underworld movies.
I
The
think-
first two.
I think the Underworld movies know what they are.
I love them.
And
But
they have a good fun with it. Also, like, you know at that point that what was it? Lens Wiseman is just being like, hey, babe, can you
Yeah.
put this on?
Yeah, yeah.
And then he was like, we can do a lot with this.
yeah. I didn't know that her and Martin Sheen had a kid. They also were an item.
Kate Beckinsale?
Beckinsale.
Did not know that.
That's his name, right? Martin Sheen, who played the
Apocalypse
werewolf.
Now, Martin Sheen?
No, not Martin Sheen. What's his name? The guy.
That's a May
I was
December
like,
romance.
what?
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name?
The guy who plays the werewolf in Underworld.
In Underworld, yeah.
He's gonna have 3 heads.
Can't remember his name. Anyways, but they had a kid. Anyways, Van Helsing. Are we still talking Van Helsing? Or should we go to
Look,
Spider-Man?
we're so off track at this point. I don't even.
Van Helsing is good at this point. Now that I get to watch it, it's actually really impressive to watch the CGI from 2004. And this movie is so much visual effects. You know for a fact no one who worked on it got paid enough for how much that took.
Oh, they never do. Yeah.
And it's also the first movie after Lord of the Rings that used the massive software in order to create big crowd stuff. And I love that they went off of using it for Lord of the Rings armies into using it for Van Helsing demon spawn children swarms. Because like his children are these like bat spawn, and they just like there's these swarms of things. That's what they use it for.
How did we get here from?
You talked about an ADD
Total
childhood. It's
non-sequitur.
Golden Girls. We're talking about Golden Girls.
We went
and then
from
we went
Golden
to-
Girls to Van Helsing, which they do not connect at all. Somebody
so-
needs to make a Golden
I've
Girls
lost.
video game.
Hold on. I'm reining this in.
So
right,
Spider-Man,
sorry.
I think one thing, we actually brought this up in Dragon Quest. There is one thing that does happen that, positive or negative, you can decide. There's a big opportunity to become very OP very early on in the game if you just stick to collectibles and side quests and don't go into the main objective.
Yeah.
And so, which is nice if you're someone like me who is someone who likes a challenge but also wants an out. I want to be able to tap out if I'm having a hard time, because I stop having fun very quickly if a game punishes me too much. That's why I don't really like From Software games
Dark
and
Souls
stuff like
stuff,
that.
yeah.
They're beautiful and they're amazingly crafted stuff, but they're just not meant for me. Even something like Hollow Knight gets me frustrated, and I stopped. Like I didn't finish Hollow Knight because I got too frustrated.
Yeah.
So Spider-Man, there are points where I think some of the combat and some of the objectives, if you really want to be a completionist, become difficult. But just go get a bunch of backpacks, go catch a bunch of pigeons, go do a bunch of research stuff, and then use it to power up your web stuff, use it to get new suit abilities. Some of the suit abilities are super helpful if you use them right.
Yeah. So the suits themselves are cosmetic.
Okay.
But most of the suits, not all of the suits, but the majority of the suits will also come with a suit ability.
Okay.
And once you unlock that suit, you get that suit ability as well.
Okay.
But you can then switch to a different suit and then mix and match the suit abilities that you have unlocked.
Punk Rock Spider-Man unlocks a sound wave blast, you do, but then you can switch over to Spider-Man 2099 and use
keep
that
the-
same thing.
Do you have like a limited number of abilities?
In your
for
suits,
each
you can have one suit power at a time,
Yeah.
and then there's mods you can do that are just little buffs that you can add
Right,
to your
that
suit.
it might be like you were insulated against melee damage, so you
Stuff like
take
that.
less damage from melee. Or when you use focus to heal, you get more healing out of it.
Yeah, and while there's also XP that you level up to use for like a talent tree, almost like World of Warcraft style kind of thing, the majority of your XP will come from main objective stuff, but you can get a good amount by doing the collectibles as well as side quests if the
Yes,
side quests are
side
available.
quests are the probably biggest alternative source of experience, at least all in one go.
Yeah.
You tend to get like 50 experience here, 75 experience
For a
here
backpack.
from collecting things, but you need a couple thousand experience to level up. So the side quests are, if you are feeling under-leveled for whatever part of the story you're in,
Yeah.
just taking a few moments and going off and tackling a side mission will probably get you up another level, and then you can take the skill point you get and unlock a new combat ability or whatever it is that you feel like you are needing to then go back into the story and tackle it differently.
I like games like this. Where you can just kind of do side quests and hang out in the open world. I was like that in Horizon Zero Dawn
Yeah.
and like Skyrim a lot.
Yeah.
But then if at some point I'm just like, okay, I want to beat it, then I can just power through in
It's kind of
10
like
minutes or 30 minutes and just go steamroll through.
Exactly.
Which I like that. I enjoy that.
It's very much kind of how the conversation was going around when Breath of the Wild came out, where people knew that they could go through and power through and get through the main objective, but they were savoring it by not doing it. And you can totally do that. You can You can spend all your time you want, even like same as like Assassin's Creed, if you also want to compare it, because Assassin's Creed is a lot of collectibles and side quests. So it's in those veins of those kinds of games. So if you like that, this game has plenty of those options for you.
I like that. I also like that just because if I put 50, 60 hours into a game, I want to feel fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Like I want to, like in Dragon Quest right now, I'm at the point where enemies will just run from me. Like they know like this guy's not to be fucked with. I like that. It's like, it like rewards your hard work.
Yeah, and even like if you're someone who, like in this game, often when you get to a fight, there will be a pop-up that will show you bonus objectives to do in the fight that will then either give you bonus XP or bonus tokens.
Yep.
So if you're someone who gets totally triggered by that and goes,
oh, God.
all right, fine, I'm gonna do this, you can challenge me, I'm gonna do it. Some of them become a lot easier to do once you unlock better like web gadgets, or you unlock, you know, like abilities that allow you to like maybe not have your combo broken, or you can electrify more people if you need to electrify some people and that kind of thing. So if you really want to do those as well, leveling up will also allow you to complete those.
And it does help to do those because if you complete the sort of like extra bits of a specific challenge. So one of the first things that that you do in the game is you're like, oh, here's a Fisk construction site, but they're not really constructing anything. It turns out they're all baddies, and then you fight sort of like a couple waves of thugs.
Oh, this is like, crime construction where they're just sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, get back to work.
Yeah, so you...
And you have to be upper management. That's your job. Spider-Man has to come in and, you know, break up the union and you know, it's totally what happens.
That's really funny.
He's on their side. So yeah, you fight, and I think the first one is like try and web 5 enemies to walls, and try to get is this what, like, you know, get a specific number of hits, something, or like
teaching you how to use
combo basically, and so you know, or do like, you know, air attacks, and so the first time you encounter that, you're like, this is real tough.
Yeah.
You, at the time, you haven't really leveled up your web shooters, probably. You're working with really basic gear.
You're also new to the combat mechanics, and I think the first time I tried that one, it did take me like 10 times to get it perfect.
See, whereas I passed it. I didn't get those bonuses when I was like, you know what, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna go, I'll go do something else. And then I came back to it later, and I had a ton of new abilities, and so it was way easier. I ended up getting all the bonuses on my first try.
Yeah. It's easy travel in the game as far as like webbing around and getting to your next place. On top of that, there's a fun little fast travel feature that you can go to police stations or your home or your lab or Aunt May's place.
Or the research labs.
And there's these cute little cinematics that happen between that are the loading screens, which is Spider-Man on the subway. Either like on his phone, just on the subway, and
That's
it's like a little
great.
thing, or like someone's like sleeping on him with their head on, like leaning against him on the subway, and he's just sitting there waiting for his next
In his
stop.
costume?
Yeah, and he's fully in costume. There's even a point in the game where you're very much like, you know, in a fugitive kind of state, which is kind of a common trope with Spider-Man.
Sure.
And so during those cinematics, he's then like hanging outside the train and leaning like down underneath the door, just kind of hanging there while the police are like looking around for him and that kind of thing.
Funny.
So there's a lot
really
of
cute.
cutesy stuff like that. They're nods.
Him doing real life shit is always funny.
Yeah.
Because I think it was in the original movies, there's that one scene of him just getting into an elevator.
Yeah.
And they just sit there silent. Like, that was one of my favorite scenes ever.
Yeah. So they're aware of how absurd it is for a man to be in a Spider-Man suit, and they do have moments for that to be a joke. And there is a good amount of humor in the game. I wouldn't say it's the funniest script I've ever heard. There was some pretty flat stuff, especially early on. I'd say the second half of the game has much stronger script. But generally, I'd say it's better than Tobey Maguire and worse than Tom Holland.
Is he wisecracky Peter Parker?
That's what he's trying to be a lot.
Yeah, it's more. I would say that
And not tortured Peter Parker?
Like at the
No,
not tortured Peter Parker, but he does. He gets the irreverence, even if everything is not hilarious.
Yeah.
He's still successfully irreverent about it. You know, so he, you know, and just sort of. He's
it's his coping mechanism.
I like that.
Spider-Man's coping
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and he's got a really good relationship with one of the police,
Yuri Watanabe.
Yuri Watanabe, who you know, they mostly communicate over radio, and so she'll radio in and be like, "Hey, we've got this thing. Can you check it out?" And they have a whole Spider Cop thing where he's like,
Spider Cop.
Spider Cop, and she's like, "Are you narrating yourself? Well, you said you would not do this."
That's fun.
And just
I like
that
that.
sort of
There's-
back and
there's a good
forth
amount of that.
is a lot of fun. You know, I like him as a character, but and we discussed this in our standalone video as well. When he's out of costume, he feels a lot flatter.
He's very wooden. The animation.
I don't like the way I feel like they could have, which is weird to say, they could have put a little more time into the main character's
That's
face.
what's annoying is that then they introduce other characters like Norman Osborn, like Aunt May, or even Miles Morales, and they are animated great, their performance is great, and their voice acting is great. So then you know they had that ability, and you know that they had either animators that were that good at creating that experience, or they had actors that are doing performance capture that are also doing that good. And so somewhere in there, either the Peter Parker actor or the animators working and were like, nah, like it just kind of sucks.
Well, I can see to some extent, they're like, well, do we prioritize the Spider-Man part or do we prioritize?
You prioritize the Spider-man part. Is what
Right, which is what they
No.
did.
You prioritize Peter though, because
Oh,
Peter
no,
is
no.
where all this
I mean-
like he is out of mask a lot in the cinematics and interstitials.
In cinematics, yes, but. Yeah, so he's weaker there. It's almost weird that he's more emotive. Like you can almost like see get more emotion from him when you can't see his face.
He constantly looks like he's about to cry when he's out of his mask.
Something about the scenes I've seen him in felt a little like early Uncharted, like just a little too. It's like they hadn't gotten it quite down yet.
A lot of it seems like his sense of humor as well is sort of gone when he's out of costume.
Yeah, he's really whiny.
He's a lot more
and-
serious.
Yeah.
Isn't he
and
kind of
so-
like that in the comic books, though? He's a little more kind of
Subdued.
jokey.
Yeah,
He's in-
I would totally agree with that because he puts on the humor as a coping
Right,
mechanism for
kind of-
dealing with the fact that he's fighting someone who could kill him.
Right, and he's kind of a pussy in real life.
Yeah,
Like,
which is, I guess, very much like a Clark Kent, Superman thing.
Little of
where,
the
like,
nebbish
you
kind of-
change your personality
Yeah.
so there's no connection, although he wears a mask, so you don't really need to do that as much. But it just is disappointing. And then we also talked about it. I didn't like the Mary Jane basically at all.
We kind of disagree on that because
Yeah.
I liked her.
Yeah.
But we also I'm not a longtime Spider-Man comics fan, so I'm maybe less tied to how that character is typically portrayed in
canon
comics.
Mary Jane.
Right.
Yeah.
I liked that she was scrappy, that she was like, I don't want to be a damsel in distress. I'm going to save myself. I'm going to take
Right.
care of myself.
Right.
And
I guess to clarify then,
And you didn't like all that. You don't like empowered women.
I don't like empowered women. I'm all about, I'm just not into that kind of thing. No, fuck that shit. No, it's, that's why I said in our video, your reasoning why you like it, I agree with. I guess my complaint is more of the execution of that goal is, again, in how they wrote her, and how the actress decided to play her, and then even just in general, the relationship that they made between Mary Jane and Peter Parker, and even Mary Jane's relationship to the story, as someone who, I break that down a lot more than maybe some other people, and I probably have some bias being comic, cartoon, and movie fan of Spider-Man, for the last, 25 odd years of my life. It just fell flat, did not hit the right notes for me, not a good version of Mary Jane that I'm a fan of.
What didn't you like about it? Without getting spoilery, but what?
It was mostly just that, she was.
The way you boiled it down to me was that, so in this game, Peter Parker no longer works for the Daily Bugle.
Right.
He's now a lab assistant working on science things, and she does work for the Daily Bugle as a reporter. And so John boiled it down as, oh, yay, more coffee, thank you, as she's an annoying Lois Lane.
She is. She's an annoying,
That's interesting.
gets in
Okay.
trouble too much Lois Lane, and
Great.
that reminds me also, that's good placement, although he hasn't been shown up in the game yet. So on top of that, her involvement in the game, there are points that you play as her to play through
Right,
part of the story,
right.
are like the down parts of the game where you just have to crawl around, don't get caught stuff.
Because you're not a superhero.
Because you're a
Right.
superhero and you're in a museum that you're not supposed to be in, looking at stuff you're not supposed to do, or you're trying to break into this police barricaded area.
Right. She's part of the fake news media.
She's part of the fake news media.
And that may come down to player preference as well.
Totally,
for me.
totally.
A lot of her segments,
except for the fact that I'm right, is what it is. No, I
are-
totally get
are
that.
the bit where-
Comments gonna hate me because they don't know how humor works.
They're a little bit slow. Like there's slower parts. You don't have access to all these cool like tools and abilities. For me, it drives home how special Spider-Man is.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I don't need that. Like, again, to compare this to the Arkham games, there wasn't any point that I needed to play as Alfred. Although I would have loved to play as Alfred.
But
That
Actually,
would
that would be amazing. Like,
Totally.
deliver Sir's breakfast.
yeah, but like,
That's all you do for like an hour. Just
Like-
you're dusting.
there's.
You know, like you're like, the toast is too.
I would have made.
We'll make it
Accepting,
again.
you're
Yeah.
accepting Amazon packages at the door.
But like, if you had to play as like a beat cop in an Arkham game, you would have been like, this sucks. You bring back Batman. I want to play as Batman. I did not want.
But
to play
you're also a hardcore Spider-Man fan.
No,
So maybe
like I
there-
mean, I like.
if you've read the comics for 20
Yeah, but okay. In the spectrum of comics, I love Spider-Man. It's not my favorite title ever.
Gotcha.
But it's mostly it's that like, you jump into a game and you want to play as the character that you expect to play in this game, and especially if your character has superpowers and can do amazing things, you want to keep being able to do that. It sucks whenever in a game you are then downgraded
Yeah.
for a time that you can't get past until you just finish this lengthy, slow pace for part of the game. It's almost like the escort missions of games where you, like a game that you're normally able to just kind of speed through or be able to traverse anywhere or go to any pace you want. Escort parts are like, slow down
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
follow
yeah, yeah.
someone or
It intentionally sort of gimps you or
yeah,
like, nurse
intentional
you, yeah.
gimping is what it felt like.
Also, I've been a reporter in real life. This is going to give me anxiety. Like having to go, because I'm just waiting for like the curator to be like, you need to contact our PR office.
Yeah.
You need to get out of here.
So that was my main complaint of that part. That happens a few times, and it does affect the pacing of the game, in my opinion.
Indubitably.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, obviously,
enough.
I hate women and empowered women and all that kind of stuff. Let's just throw that in
Of
there.
course.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly.
Is it the- is
Clearly, I'm too macho for for this game. Right?
But overall, so I think what they really nailed with this game for me is one, Spider-Man is great. The
Good
animation.
thing to nail.
It's pronounced Spoderman.
The animations,
thing,
whether it's like whether you're doing animations like in combat, everything feels really
Yeah.
fluid. Swinging around the city feels really great.
Do you want to explore the overworld? Like, do you get that sense of like, oh, I want to just like look around and go do side
Yeah.
things
And
stuff?
what I found was that once, so as you level up and you start getting new abilities, you can sort of traverse a lot faster.
Yeah.
And I kept finding I'd be like getting really into the swing of things and way overshoot where I had intended to
Right.
go. And I'd be like, oh, I'm in a different neighborhood. Oh, shiny thing. And then go off and then overshoot that thing. So I just like find myself swinging around because it starts off and you're like, oh, just swinging, like you hold down the R2 button and you'll swing and you'll swing to the next thing and you'll swing to the next thing,
then you
and
learn
like
little
that's
tricks
really like
to-
basic and nice, and you're like, oh, also if you hit the L2 and R2, you'll zip to a thing, and then if you hit the X button right as you hit it, then you do like a cool flippy
That's
bit, and
cool,
it
that's
gets some
cool. So
momentum,
you get
and
better
you
at
start,
traveling.
Yeah, you start getting all of these like additional ways to
You can ride on cars too.
zip around. Yeah, that's fun
You
too.
can land on them and you just perch on them and drive around with them.
Well, yeah, he sticks to shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he's
It's great.
Spider-Man. That's cool.
So there are a lot of like nice, fun ways to do that,
Yeah.
and it all feels really good. It is not physics-based. So, there were.
You can fall from really high.
Oh, yeah, and then
There's
you just go.
no fall
then you just go,
damage.
Flippy.
Yeah. And like the screen gets all shaky
Ta-da!
and like velocity lines start passing by you and
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
going at like an insane pace and then you just land.
Yep.
Which is nice because you don't want fall damage on this.
I want
No.
to be a superhero.
Yeah.
I want to do fun shit.
Yeah. So I remember there were initially people were like, so is this going to be like you're going to have to manage your trajectories exactly? And that's not the case. You can dive to speed up and do some fun things that way. You can get some bonus abilities to get extra momentum when you blast off of a specific point. So there are all different things that you can do, but it is very arcadey. It's not like, oh, well, you're going to have to calculate your trajectory. Otherwise, you're not going to make it. It's like, oh, you want to go to that place? We're going to make sure you can get to that place.
I like the idea of him taking fall damage. Like just in the middle of Times Square, he just falls out of the sky.
If
and
that
dies.
happened, if that was a part of this game, you'd be dying all the time.
Yeah.
It's because you are up in the sky the entire game.
Well, the Arkham games felt like that too, kind of like you could kind of glide anywhere.
Yeah.
You could just sort of
And if you grappled yourself up high and that kind of thing.
It's not going to punish you.
No, this doesn't punish you for that. It's all of your damage is going to come from combat.
Cool.
Yep. So I really like a lot of the side characters.
Side characters.
I like a lot of the design of the enemies. That is like the boss enemies. I find that once you get down to street level and you're walking around, like the NPC models are not great.
No, they're not.
They're not the worst thing I've ever seen, but you're sort of intended to see them at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or like if you're zipping along like lampposts or whatever, and a lot of things seem to be intended to be more backgroundy.
It's not like Cyberpunk where like these are going to be each uniquely rendered.
No, it's it's like, hey,
You see a lot of the same characters.
and same thing when you're fighting sort of the regular like crime encounters and enemies, whatever. There's a couple of types, and there are a couple of different factions.
Yeah.
But they each have here's the shield guy for this faction. Here's the rocket launcher guy for this faction.
The rocket launcher.
Here's the sniper guy for this faction.
The rocket launcher member of the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, who,
There's a lot of
who wants to take the rocket launcher today?
There are a lot of rocket
Everyone,
launchers.
as it turns out. But there are a couple things that you really specifically learn. Like this one, you have to knock in the air, otherwise he's going to block your melee attacks. This one, you have to get behind him, and so you have to. You sort of get used to that. And
To like
each of the
breaking their
factions-
guard and yeah.
Each of the factions sort of has each of those, but the factions all feel kind of different as well. So one of the factions is the demon gangs, and they tend to be, you encounter them a lot of times indoors. Their bases are typically indoors sort of environments, and they deal a lot, they may shock you with a lot of electricity, that kind of thing.
Okay.
The Fisk gangs are your sort of typical traditional thugs. Their bases
They're the
tend to be
Goombas.
outdoors,
Goons.
so you can get away a lot easier.
Also good comic. Goon is a good comic. Just
Oh,
FYI.
I've heard good things.
Also, great movie, the hockey movie.
No, that movie. I thought you meant the movie that was supposed to be made by David Fincher that never got made. That was based on the Goon comic.
And then the Sables they hit you really, really hard.
They're
This is her-
fucking bitches.
This is her own
I
little
hate
mercenary
them so
force.
Yeah,
much.
her own
right?
private security force, independently contracted. They got jetpacks and
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're the one that
they drop napalm on you.
they're the one that I die to the most
Yeah.
in just random encounters.
The Fisk thugs, you could totally jump in the middle of them, start fighting and do it. I jumped.
Here I am, boys.
I jumped into the middle of a Sable thing, and I had 8 sniper laser sights on me, and someone just dropped napalm on me. And I was like, all right, so we can't do this. We need to go a different route with the Sable people.
Yeah, so they each have sort of strategies that work best for different factions, in addition to the sort of character archetypes.
It's stealth. You can do stealth stuff, right? Like pick them off,
Yes.
kind of one.
Which is really cool. So
Yeah.
seeing that right here on the screen,
Right.
You can see where inside one of the demon bases and picking some of them off one by one, which then makes it easier
Right.
to take on more of the enemies.
fewer people pointing guns at
Yeah.
you when you decide to
Exactly.
eventually engage them.
This is also reminding me about an aspect of the game, very similar, again, to Batman, that although Spider-Man is a non-lethal superhero, you fucking kill motherfuckers in this game a lot of times. There are moves that he does these guys, it's like, yeah,
Would absolutely
that's a
kill
shattered skull. Or you'll be up on the top of a building and you can kick a fucker off the
You
building.
can't, but have you noticed that he actually webs them to the side?
Not every time. I guarantee you, there have been times that I have knocked a dude up, hit him a few times. We're doing this kind of mid-air combo thing out off the building, and then I swing off of nothing and hit him off the even further.
Clouds
and
gone?
he goes,
Grapple off the sun.
and then I immediately go and fight someone else. I do immediate hit back to the building, and that guy is just gone. So for a fact, you kill people. Even that right there, that guy just webbed a grenade at a dude's face. Okay, you don't walk away from
It should
that.
be like GTA and an ambulance shows
Yeah.
up to get him and carry him off.
I mean, even just the whole
I see him try to shock him back.
there are a lot of times that you kill dudes in this.
I've always thought if you really wanted to, just web somebody's nose and mouth shut. And I mean,
Yeah,
you're done. Move on to the next one.
Yeah. There is even that option. You have like the way they deal with that is you have limited web shots for certain abilities, and you can earn them back through combos and that kind of thing. But yeah, you can't just be like going around and just shooting everybody over and over again. Although you are. Like the more web abilities you do unlock, the more you can use those to really take care of like big crowds.
So you got to punch and kick. And,
yeah. But then like if you use your electric webs, it stuns them, or you have web that does knockback, you can do that, or you even have web that does bombs that then disperse into huge like things.
All non-lethal.
All non-lethal.
Some of the abilities I really enjoy. So first of all, you build up you can build up focus, and you get to a certain point, you can do these really sweet finishers that are instant takedowns.
That are definitely not killing them.
They're definitely not killing them, but they look really cool when you do them. Like
it's really cool when you take a man's head and slam it to the concrete.
Cool.
And then you can unlock an ability where if you do a finisher, you can immediately do a second finisher. So you basically can do 2 in a row.
Okay.
One of the abilities is like you can electrify your sort of attacks. You build that up. There's another one where you can grab onto rockets that are being launched at you.
Oh yeah, and you can swing them back.
Around
That's
and then
bad.
swing them
Okay,
back.
now we're talking.
There's one where if you dodge, if you dodge an attack, you can immediately take down the gunman. A gun attack. You can immediately just take them out. So you get. As you go through and you build up, and those, it's like this will take a skill point. This will take a skill point, and then you can build yourself up really.
Or rogue class, or
yeah, then you start to specialize.
Does Spider Sense come into play?
It does. So
That's
if
what
you
tells
see,
you
when he's in combat, he'll get this.
You're seeing that
white
over his
halo
head right now?
Around
Okay,
his
yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah.
That's
tells
telling you
an
someone's
attack
shooting at
is
you or about
coming.
to hit you.
Okay.
And then when it turns blue, then it's like the attack is incoming, and that's when you can typically do like
Do a
your perfect
dodge.
dodges and everything. So you can dodge, and then you can also do a perfect dodge, which
There's also rumble parts to it that let you know danger is coming.
Yep. So as you go and you unlock additional abilities, they're a lot of fun to use in combat. It's a lot more fun as well than just being like, hey, hit them into the air, and then hit them while they're in the air, and then hit them again while they're in the air.
Sort of a juggle move.
Yeah. I mean, I find that I do default to a play style typically, and I do find I'm like, just juggle them to not death.
You come up with a combo that works for you, and that you can repeat like just.
But then being able to unlock a lot of these different things becomes a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting him really powered up. He needs to get the power cosmic at some point.
I didn't see that suit.
That would be badass.
What's the suit where he's like Captain Universe like style?
Yeah.
Or Universe Spider.
There are a couple dozen really cool suits though.
I wanted like the symbiote suit. I mean, I know that's the black,
there,
the black one where
yeah.
it's. I haven't seen it, but it would be cool if they add that at some.
The Infinity War suits in there is pretty good, and it unlocks like the arms. And so those are very OP in the game. They're basically like just keep punching.
They're great. So if you
your arms will take care of it.
Yeah.
It's really nice too when you go into an encounter and you know sort of like what the bonuses are that you need to tick off.
There's
and
a Ben Reilly
select,
suit. Ben Reilly the clone.
Yeah, sure.
You can select the like different abilities that will then help you. If you need to rack up a lot of hits really quickly, like get a high combo.
Yep.
The Iron Spider ability is really great.
Yeah.
If you need to
Electric
electrify
Fist
someone,
one's pretty good.
there'll be like electrify five enemies at once, and you're like, oh, I got this.
And it keeps cascading the more you punch people. So like
Yeah.
you can like potentially have like 10 guys around you. They're just like dying from electrocution. Not dying. They're not dying. They're
They're
just
not
having a
dead.
bad
Just
day.
getting stunned.
Yeah.
Yes, until they can no longer move.
Yeah.
It's until their hearts stop beating.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Overall, really enjoy it. It's not.
I'm sold.
It's not flawless. It's like
Right.
it's not the
How
perfect
dare you?
game that it could
How
ever be.
dare you?
Yeah, I think potential like little pacing things. You didn't like the MJ segments.
Correct.
And some of the like there were occasionally if you slow down too much, some of the graphics do show because it's meant to be seen at speed.
It's also rendering a giant city.
It is rendering
That is
a
not
giant
only just giant horizontally, but giant vertically. So it's processing a good amount.
It is, and it does a great job of it. You can be traversing, drop straight into a combat scenario, and then just launch yourself out of it and continue around the city. The only times that you encounter a loading screen are if you're going inside from the outdoors,
Okay.
or
All right.
vice versa.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
Is it something that you think you'll play after you finish the campaign?
I already am playing it after I finish the campaign.
There you go. There's
Right
the
now I'm
answer.
doing a bunch of the collectible stuff.
Okay.
I want to see if I can get to the 100%.
Yeah, I definitely want to 100% it so that
There's a
when-
suit, right, that you
yeah,
unlock.
and so that when DLC comes out, he'll be as powerful as possible.
You'll
so
be
I can
ready.
do DLC.
Yeah.
Because I will play all the DLC of this game.
Oh, that's a good endorsement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
but it
definitely-
also doesn't feel like I don't feel like anything's been cut out.
Nah, it's a full game.
Got it.
You're buying a full
So,
game. That
yeah.
works. Buying a full
Which-
game that works. A rarity.
That's awesome. What a concept.
All right. So overall, how you feel about the game?
Yeah, I think.
I can go on about this game at length. I'm
I
having
think
a lot of fun with
I
it.
think Greg put it really well when he phrased it. It's the best Spider-Man game ever.
Yeah, Kind of Funny is Greg Miller. You should check them out.
Yeah.
If you don't watch Kind of Funny yet, they're great.
Yeah.
And also,
There's a moment. I'll say this.
Kind of Funny's one of their Patreon awards this month, I believe, is they did their own cover. If you have the physical version of the new Spider-Man, they did a nice shirtless Spider-Man.
There is a
So
point.
get your own shirtless Spider-Man cover if you've got the physical version.
There's
for
a point
PS4.
in this game, spoiler-free, that if you find a certain thing in an event that you have to go through, it will remind you of Greg a lot. So just look for that. Look for, if you're a fan of Greg Miller, look for a reminder of Greg in Spider-Man.
Is that
PS4.
intentional? Did they give him a shout out in the
I
game?
wouldn't be remotely surprised.
That's so badass.
Yeah, I haven't
That's so
confirmed
cool.
it, but I did bring it up with him, and so yeah.
That's awesome.
So yep, go get Spider-Man. It's good. Good game.
We'll probably do a lot more stuff about Spider-Man as well.
I can't wait. Can't wait
but
to play it.
We should also take some time, talk about current events. Cool? Whew, let's come down a little bit.
That's right. We're all excited.
News time.
Get in our Bob Ross mode.
All right, couple of points of note in the industry recently. One, the Witcher series on Netflix has found its Geralt. It is not Mads Mikkelsen, so we can mourn that. It is Henry Cavill. Spider-Man.
Superman.
Superman.
Henry Cavill. Big old beefy Spider-Man. Thick Spider-Man.
Jaw cut
Yeah.
granite.
With all his mustache and removed. No, it's Superman, Henry Cavill, and he's
more
going
than
to be playing Geralt.
He'd be Geralt.
Yeah, he's also the guy who reloads his fist in the new Mission Impossible.
It's
I
so
don't know.
good.
What do
It's
you
so
want?
good. It's so good. He was good in Man from U.N.C.L.E. and he was also
You
good
know
in
what?
Immortals.
I did like him an awful lot in Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a great movie, underrated in my
Good in
opinion.
Tutors. He's a good guy.
You think this is a better choice than Mads?
Oh, I don't think it's a better choice. I'm a huge Maz fan as
Yeah.
well. I love that man, and I've watched, I think, almost every film he's made. But I'm also a huge Henry Cavill fan. I think he's someone who, can obviously carry a very physical role and be an action character.
Look, have you seen him? He can carry anything.
Yes, he's a big
big
man
boy.
that wouldn't mind touching a few times. But he also, because
Consensually.
obviously consensually. If you watch things like Man from U.N.C.L.E. and his previous works, and even in Superman, I think he's an emotional actor that could bring a lot of weight to a role like Geralt. Granted, I'm not the biggest Witcher fan out there. I still haven't beaten Witcher 3.
Yeah, I would love to get Adam's opinion on this. He's having a crazy busy week, so he couldn't join us today. But I need to talk to him about this because I want to know how he feels.
Have there been a lot of people upset?
Fan.
Because I don't
think
read
it's
the internet very
more-
much anymore. As far as pissed off people, I tried to not.
Well, that's probably a positive way to live your life.
Yeah.
I think so far it's not a total blindside because he did express interest in the role
Gotcha.
quite publicly, which when an actor does that, they're usually kind of barracking for a role. They're campaigning for it. It's a role that they want. He talked about the books.
Oh, that's right, he did. I remember that.
He plays video games on the regular as well. So it's I believe he's sort of he's got that background, that credibility, and that he has a legitimate interest in it, which is great. And he did talk about wanting it, but it is kind of a surprise in that it's. I guess I pictured someone less leading man known in the role,
Okay.
someone almost more of a character actor.
Gotcha.
Which is, and then also, I see Geralt and I'm like, oh, look, it's Maz.
Yeah. Something
So
more
I
like
guess-
Scandinavian.
Yeah, so I guess I got that sort of like in my head. Or Schmorgan Heckengard. What's his name?
Alex Skarsgård? No.
Jamie Lannister.
Oh God.
I
He has
just
like
think
a
his name is
hyphenate.
Schmorgan
Schmorgan
Heckengard.
Heckengard.
Yeah,
That's
I
all we
didn't
know
know
in
he's
that
got a
round
name,
here.
but he will always be
Oh
Schmorgan
no, I
Heckengard
don't.
to
I
me.
wouldn't want him. Did you see him in Gods of Egypt?
No, I did not. But I feel like,
I just bought Gods of
get
Egypt.
the beard
it was
going on.
$5 and I bought it. It's actually a really fun movie to watch. It's bad, but it's a fun movie to watch.
But I guess I just didn't. I think that Henry Cavill will do fine. It's just a readjustment of sort of like what I was picturing.
Gotcha.
Which is really the challenge for anything that's got, like when you make an adaptation that's got a fandom.
Yeah.
And people are like, it should be this.
Well,
He's a big name right now.
Gotcha.
He is. Like, he just, and I feel like they'll go with the hot actor, and he's a hotter actor right now, just career-wise, than Mads or a lot of these people. So that's probably, and if he's campaigning for it, he's gonna get that part.
Yes. Yes. So I guess I shouldn't be as surprised, but that's the new role we're going with. So the other
who's directing it? Do we know?
Yeah, it's well, the showrunner on it is Lauren S. Hisrich, or Hisrich.
Good memory, yeah.
I'm not great on the pronunciation, and so she confirmed the casting and everything. We still don't have a ton of
Writer.
details. It's
Yeah.
It's the planned 8 episodes.
Right.
It's probably going to be a 2020 release on
So we're a
Netflix.
ways away.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we're deep into 2018 and they haven't started yet. So,
Yeah.
or at least production.
We,
so
we don't know what budget and everything is going to be. That said, Netflix can put a lot of things together fairly quickly. We see that with, I follow, probably the stuff that I follow most closely on Netflix is the different Marvel series.
Right.
And they'll be like, oh, hey, like Daredevil's in production. And then it'll be like, aha, okay, so I can expect, X many months.
Yeah.
But also will be different with a fantasy-based series, because I'm sure they'll have more effects work to do.
Director to the episodes also directed an episode of Daredevil, an episode of Misfits, the UK show that's really amazing.
Amazing show. If you haven't watched Misfits, dope show.
Yeah.
Also, what's his name? Creepy.
Ewan Rion.
Ewan Rion.
Also, like,
he's the
Sausage Boy in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he's the
Oh.
he's the castrator dude.
that's what I feel like Game of Thrones has set the bar so high for like fantasy stuff now that, not that they have to match those production values because it's impossible, but I feel like they're gonna have to put a little more TLC into the production than I feel like some past fantasy stuff has been a little, I don't know.
Netflix though, I feel like
They'll give
Netflix
them enough money.
has a pretty good gauge of how much money to throw at
Yeah.
some of these titles.
Then
like,
the big question being, did they blow their budget on Henry Cavill, who's going to cost a lot more than other actors?
I mean, it's a possibility, but again, I think that with The Witcher being such a recognizable IP compared
Yes.
to, like, let's say, Altered Carbon, which was not a recognizable IP.
How dare you?
It's recognizable for gamers, but I guess that'll be enough.
And
But that's what they're going
a
for.
Very successful series of books.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But they threw, I would say, the correct amount of money at Altered Carbon and the right crew to create this world. That I think they'll do the exact same thing with this.
Really interested to see what Altered Carbon Season 2 looks like, since they're...
New leading man.
Yeah, because it's such a weird show where basically a person can be taken from body to body. And so for this next season, which I don't know if it's going to be following along the way the books does, but it takes place somewhere else. So this character has been basically moved into a body in that other location. So new leading man playing the same character, which is kind of crazy and
Yeah.
weird, but also like,
Like a Doctor Who type thing, kind of. Like a
little bit.
little bit.
Little bit.
It's really hard to gauge what to expect from these shows until you get,
lot
in
more
my
nudity.
opinion,
A lot more nudity.
there would be probably a lot. I mean, with Witcher, the game has a lot of adult content.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
So
there's not a
Netflix-wise,
scene on a
raunchy.
unicorn,
There's got to be, what's going to be the boobs to dick ratio? That's what I want to know.
100 to 0.
hey, not
There was-
fair.
well, Altered Carbon was a lot of naked women and maybe every once in a while a naked dude.
That's true. I mean, to be honest though, like
There was an entire
boobs
fight
are pretty
scene
dope,
in
so it's hard to argue with
Right.
boobs.
But I was gonna say with Witcher, it's very hard to gauge really like what to tell from these kinds of shows until you get a lot more crew credits to know who's working, who's going to be like who's directing more than one episode, who is crafting it, and then on top of that, getting marketing materials. So at this point, Henry Cavill, I think, is a good actor, so this is news that I'm excited for.
He'll do a fine job.
And we'll find out more about the thing, because, you know, like, Venom's a good example of something where when they announced Tom Hardy, I was like, yes, Tom Hardy is like an amazing actor. He carries character roles so well. And then as they announced crew, I was like, oh, this isn't good. And then they came out with trailers, and I'm like, so Venom's gonna be bad. Cool. Like, that's like, I don't think you can gauge these things until you go into a lot more detail about the behind the scenes of the show. So I think I'm happy about what's happening with Witcher, and I hope that they keep building a good group, because it's a good IP.
And they've done a lot of video games. So like I just finished Castlevania, like the first, and I thought it was a fine job with that.
However, name a good live action video game adaptation.
That doesn't exist.
So that's what's not
these
in
were
its favor.
books first,
Right,
so
but
that
if you
helps.
don't consider this a video game adaptation,
Exactly.
you consider it a book
Books.
adaptation. It's a fantasy
I
adaptation.
guess, yeah.
I mean,
So is that your way of getting out of this? But
They've got better source material
So
to
wait.
go for.
so wait, if it's bad, then it was a book adaptation. If it's good, it's the first good video game adaptation. Okay, that's the way we're gonna get away from this.
We'll go with that.
I just think if it's a series of novels, there's a lot more to pull from than just a video.
How many novels are there?
3, maybe more than
Yeah,
I don't know.
there are a couple. I haven't read all of them.
Are the games based on each novel?
No.
No.
So they're they're in the world, and they have they have Geralt, but then there are nods, but it's sort of going its own
Loose
way.
adaptations.
Nice.
Gotcha.
And also the author is Andrzej Zulkowski is involved with the series as well. But
And
I
he
think
wasn't in the game,
And I think
so.
they have done some consulting with CD Projekt. At the very least, I think the sound designer for the games has at least done some consulting, or maybe working on the series in some capacity. So there are sort of like ties between all the things, and that indicates to me that they are wanting to try to do it right.
They're admitting to the existence of the games, you know.
Yes.
Well, it's set the look.
Which is good, because
Yeah.
the author, not a fan of the games. Mostly.
Really?
Well, I think it's because
He signed away his rights.
He signed away his
Oh,
rights
no,
really cheap.
sweetie.
He didn't want royalties because he didn't think it would be successful. So he took like all upfront, and he would have made so much more if he had gone the
Yeah.
royalty route. So I think understandably a little bit sore about that. So I think the author is probably like much more like eyes forward on the series, maybe picturing more of like a George R.R. Martin kind of deal there.
So
According to PCGamer.com, I guess, I'm not sure where this information is coming from, but they said that they know that CD Projekt Red's cinematic director, Tomas Baginski, who directed the opening cinematics in all 3 Witcher games, is penciled to direct at least one episode.
That's pretty
So they're
dope.
pulling from that, yeah.
I like
cool.
that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes. It's going to be a long wait. I'm sure we'll learn a lot more in the lead up to figure out exactly where hype meters should be ahead of this. But I am, I'm cautiously optimistic.
we're due a movie or TV series based on a video game that's good. It's like we've been able to do it multiple times with comic books now, and so that's amazing.
They've shown,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, get your shit together and stop making these bad video game adaptations. Whether this is video game or book adaptation, it seems like we got people from both of the components working on the show.
Well, I
could be
mean,
good.
keep in mind as well, I'm of the opinion that series are a good place for book adaptations in particular, because you
sheer
have,
amount of content.
Yeah, you have more time to sort of explore the worlds and to build out lore and to build out characters and the things all around them. So I think that series are a really good place for this type of adaptation.
Can you imagine if they had made Warcraft a series?
It would be great, right? But as is, they have to try and cram in so many things and establish all these things.
Boy, how did they cram stuff into that movie?
And really simplify plot lines in order to fit it into a specific window. Whereas they'd be like, or we could take 5 times as much time and really establish.
And we'll call it Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
I still think the best video game movie is the first Mortal Kombat.
I
From
love
like
Mortal Kombat.
95.
That movie is amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so bad.
It's
so bad.
but I
Bad
think
isn't
you mean
good. Yeah. Bad isn't good.
Yeah, that's
Remember when they
right.
cast a white dude as Raiden?
It's Christopher Lambert. He's the Highlander. He's not some white dude.
Yes, he is some
He's the fucking Highlander.
Well, John,
Of
next
course
year
he's gonna be rated.
you have Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog to look forward to. So.
And Jordan Vogt Roberts is
that's what I'm
working
saying,
on Metal
is that,
Gear.
Is that you brought Castlevania?
Yes.
There have been good cartoon adaptations for a lot of video games. Even Sonic the Hedgehog, the Saturday morning one, was a good adaptation. And I'd say even Mega Man had a good adaptation.
Yeah, but just wait for Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik.
I don't want to talk about that. But, oh wait, no, I want Jim Carrey's Robotnik's to be great. He's a great voice actor.
He's gonna be live action.
Wait, what? The Ben Schwartz thing with Sonic the Hedgehog has got Jim Carrey's live action Robotnik?
I think so.
It's gonna be a mess.
That's
I'm
gonna
looking
be
it
a
up.
Mess, but I am there for Sonic messes. But I'm saying that cartoons.
The plot is apparently a cop in rural town of Green Hills will help Sonic escape from the government who is looking to capture him.
Whoa! I'm so happy about this. I love Sonic bad stuff.
That's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be a whole
Oh
thing.
my God.
But
So.
there have been good cartoon adaptations
Yes.
as far as live action. Same with anime. There are no good live action anime adaptations that are actually like amazing movies that you scream about.
It's because cartoons are over the top like video games.
Yeah.
I mean, like video games are. I mean, I think they share so much DNA,
Yeah.
and live action is so fucking different. Unless you just, have a bazillion dollars like Marvel to throw at it.
Still, but they threw $1 bazillion at Warcraft.
Sonic the Hedgehog
Yeah.
is going to be live action.
So he's going to be CG then?
I think Sonic is going to be CG. I don't know about Robotnik, but we'll see how this plays out.
What is going on with this? I got to look more into this later.
That is
Oh,
not.
that's gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah.
But again, you sidetracked a little bit. Other news things that are not video game movie adaptations. The International Olympic Committee, a bit of a shift, a bit of a left turn, says that video games are not appropriate for the Olympics because they're too violent
Appropriate for what? To be
The Olympics.
to be part of the Olympics. So
Like a sport or an
there've been
event.
there've been ongoing conversations for a really long time about whether or not esports belongs in the Olympics, and like your answer, you seem to be on the I don't think video games should be part of the Olympics. That's fine, but the reasoning here is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because this is the organizer of the Olympics
Don't we have a-
committee.
He's the president of the IOC.
the president
Don't they
saying
shoot stuff in the Olympics?
Oh,
Don't they
yeah.
have, like guns.
yeah, he says they're too violent where killing people is like the point.
Yeah, Kirby eats people.
Whereas our
Motherfucker eats
sports, even if they're based in violence, are like the gentleman's version. They're the civilized version of violence.
When our guys fight, they just wrestle on the ground with each other. When your guys fight, they shoot fireballs at each other.
Right. The difference being though also the violence in the video games also not real.
Yeah.
Right, and even boxing is real violence.
You are actually hitting people.
People have died in boxing matches. I mean,
Absolutely.
I think he was saying like, sure, there's fencing and things that combat sports have grown out of real life violence, but it's more civilized. It's a
Javelin's
way
really
to.
just spear throwing.
Yeah.
His exact quote is,
exactly.
Mr. Bach, who won an Olympic gold medal in fencing, says esports needs to be less violent before being included. And his exact quote is, of course, every combat sport has its origins in a real fight among people, but sport is the civilized expression about this.
What about Tetris?
See, and I would say
there's no violence in Tetris.
I would say that, yeah, there's also no actual violence in video games. Like, the players aren't out hitting each other in the face.
Well, there's no real-world physical violence, but there is simulated violence.
Yeah, I mean, you could also argue that chess would be violent. You're taking out pieces. You're destroying the other person's
It is
army.
simulated
there's-
violence.
there's
It's killing-
buyout-
It is killing of characters.
They have target shooting and shooting, skeet shooting, a biathlon where you have to ski and then go pick up a rifle and shoot at a target.
favorite thing in the world.
Biathlon's the best.
You know, chicks get taken out in the figure skating area, with sledgehammers. That's a Tanya Harding reference.
Nice. I got it.
Yeah, so I guess I find that particular line of reasoning to be really,
cop-out.
really weird.
It feels like an old man yells at cloud.
It does. It feels
It does.
very out of touch.
But what if it was like League of Legends or something? I know what he's thinking about. He's thinking about, like, in his mind, probably a first-person shooter or Grand Theft Auto, but there's so much more shit. Like, what if there was a MOBA or...
What about that really scary game where you're in a car hitting a soccer ball around the field?
Right, exactly.
So yeah,
Mario Kart.
That's violent, okay?
So whether you think that video games are an Olympic sport or not, and I know there are a lot of people split on that, this reasoning, I'm calling bullshit. I don't think that this is any more real violence than anything else in the Olympics.
I think video games in general are still considered low art by a lot of other
absolutely.
traditionalists in
Yes,
the world of
yes.
the media and sporting. And regardless of how much popularity they have or how much money is involved in that market, they still will look down upon it. That's just going to be a constant for quite a while.
Because they're still relatively young.
They're still
a relatively
right.
young art form. In 30 years, 40 years,
Yeah.
it might be totally different.
There
You
are
know,
still,
people
like,
who grew up playing.
Totally. There's like 1 or 2 generations still on the way,
Yes.
and I don't mean that in a like they need to die kind of thing, but they're just
But
still
kind of.
in a way it is a transitionary point where that there is still generations that this is not their world at all, and it's still some sort of youthful thing. Doesn't matter that you got guys that are in their 30s and 40s who have kids who are playing it, it's still something that is childish. And so you can cop out by saying it's violent.
It's also funny to hear the IOC up on its high horse about the Olympic spirit and stuff when you look at the corruption in an organization like that
so
and the
hypocritical.
doping scandals
Yeah.
and all that. It's like, come off it. Like it's like they're like FIFA. I mean, just let's calm down a little bit, IOC.
It's a cop out. That's
Yeah.
the end story of it. It's that he just didn't want to deal with the fact that it's video games.
Right.
All right. And finally, PlayStation has responded with their opinion on crossplay, which boils down to, PlayStation's the best place to play. Why would we enable crossplay with other consoles?
Which is what we
That
all
would
knew
be
they were
dumb.
going to say. They're in
Yeah,
control.
it's not as it's not an enormous surprise, but
Yeah.
this is the president of PlayStation saying it. It's been sort of hinted at by other Sony executives previously, but this is like the highest authority that they have at PlayStation saying, yeah, no, PlayStation's the best place to play, and we look for the best possible platform experience, and sometimes we'll crossplay with PC, but otherwise, nah. And this is specifically in reference to Fortnite crossplay, but
That's because that was the game that forced the conversation.
yeah, that's been the recent big one that came up, largely because PlayStation was the platform that they were like, if you have like a character and account on PlayStation for Fortnite, you cannot use that anywhere else.
And when it came out on Switch, people were like, "What the fuck? Why
They're
can't I
like,
use
why
my
can't-
character?"
Yeah, like I
And
want to.
that-
Why can't I like log in and use this? What do you mean I have to have a different Fortnite account?
Very
So-
understandably.
Yeah, and mind you, the crossplay conversation is an interesting one because it has boiled up fairly recently, again, largely due to, there's been a lot of pressure from different developers. Bethesda has been a developer heavily pushing for cross-platform play. Mind you, so did Epic's push for it, Psyonix, the Rocket League developers have pushed for it, and then it's also gaining traction with certain platforms, specifically Xbox and Nintendo right now, in that they are, like, they put out the Minecraft trailer of, like, hey, you can play Minecraft with your friends, whether they're on Xbox or the Switch, look at this. Like, you know who's not here? Sony. And, so they are also exerting pressure there, but there's also market considerations. As far as Sony is concerned, they don't need to. They are the market leader, and they are in the perfect place to some degree, hold their user base hostage a little bit. Like, oh, you want to play with your friends on PlayStation? Guess you better buy a PlayStation. And just so you know, a lot of your friends are on PlayStation. So that's the way that if they basically have that user base that can't just go playing with anyone, then if you want to play with someone, then you have to essentially come to PlayStation.
Their business. They're going to make, I think, decisions at this point that are best for their business and best for keeping their business at the top where it's at right now. And so things like very important and well-loved exclusives are part of their plan that they're doing a very good job of, and being something where you have to come to PlayStation to play with their stuff.
Yeah.
That's also in their favor.
Yeah, I think this is a cold reminder that, like you said, it's a business. They're not in it for altruism.
Like
it's not a nonprofit.
No.
They don't
They're
want.
not your friend. They are a
Right.
business.
They don't want to share. And
Remember
they
when
don't
we used to
have
call this a console war?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Like, it's like, well, they've won the war. They're not going to be like, oh, okay, now we'll just forget that we won the war and
Right.
play along.
None of these are your friends or just want to help you. They want to keep you in their ecosystem. And if you want to play with your friends, like you said, buy a PlayStation. If not our problem. Go play with one of the others.
Mind you, I will be curious to see how this bears out when we get into the next generation of hardware, largely because it is, to some degree, kind of a display of the old Sony arrogance.
Yeah, you brought that up before, and I thought that was a good point.
They cycle, in mentality and approach these different generations, also depending on where they're at positioning-wise. And they came out of the gate strong with PlayStation 4. And they were like, look how pro-consumer we are. Whereas, Xbox is trying to fuck you.
Yeah.
But we're not. We're your friends.
But they were kind of neck and neck back then with the PS3 and the 360.
Right. They started out, well, PlayStation 3 was behind in terms of release as well. So Xbox 360 had a head start. Right. And they used that to their advantage. Xbox 360 was a great platform, came out with a lot of great games, had a really strong library.
Xbox Live was superior.
So Sony kind of had to be scrappy to catch up, and they did globally catch up and surpass Xbox 360 eventually. But to do that, they had to be aggressively pro-consumer.
Yeah.
Right now, they're in the lead. They don't really have anything that they have to do. Right now, it's all working out great.
Right.
Why would they change what they're doing?
Yeah, they will be player friendly when they need to be, when it helps that, or if they have to catch up, which is what they did a lot more of, like you said, with PS3. But they don't. The fact is, they don't need to be right.
It's their market to fuck up at this point.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I'll be really curious to see how that next generation goes with that, because there are some choices that Sony makes with their hardware and the way that they handle, well, not the hardware is fine, but just the way they handle their ecosystem that just annoy the shit out of me. Do you remember when they announced the Xbox One and that was a whole big fuck up? And everyone was upset about the always online DRM and how you have to
Have a connect.
yeah, and Sony had just posted the cheeky little video of here's how you share games with friends on PlayStation, and just showed like handing over the disc, and they're like, haha, see how much better it is. The Sony, like the PlayStation DRM, annoys the shit out of me.
Like currently.
Yes.
How they do it now.
So the way that Xbox currently has it handled, if you have your home console. If you want to have someone else play one of your games on another console, you need to be signed in on that console, so you're not sort of using your account elsewhere at the same time. Yeah. But as long as you're signed in on that console, they can also sign in on that console and play the game. Now with Sony, and I'm encountering this currently, keep in mind I'm right now annoyed by this because it is impacting me at the moment, I needed to change my default PS4, and I moved it here to the studio so that we could all play Spider-Man on our own accounts, because if it's not your default console, then unless you directly have the license, you can't play something. So on one that's not my default console, you can't play Spider-Man.
So if you, oh wow.
Because I have the license for it.
This seems like everything that people hated about the Xbox One announcement, they've just done it quietly.
Also, if I'm trying to play a game that I have the license for, in this case Spider-Man, but my console is not online, it's locked. Oh. So there are like these just very quiet things that Sony has in place that are really not any more consumer friendly than anyone else.
The online thing is so you should be able to play it offline.
They talked a good game.
Yeah, right. And it's too late now.
Yeah.
At least this generation.
So, I'll be curious to see sort of what pressures come to bear with the next generation of hardware.
This is why competition is good.
Yeah.
This is why you need...
Consolidated market's never a good thing.
Right, no, this is why you need Microsoft and Xbox still around to keep Sony honest.
Yep, and...
to a lesser extent Nintendo, but I don't think they're really direct,
Yeah, they play in a different field, but I also
bit.
feel like Microsoft is moving more in that direction as well. Just based on they're like, hey, we're focusing on backwards compatibility, and we've got Game Pass, and all of our first-party stuff is also available day-and-date PC, and you can play back and forth. And they seem to be doing a lot more in creating like their Xbox ecosystem than like, hey, you need to be on the Xbox playing this right now, otherwise no.
Well, it hasn't Microsoft's goal always been with the Xbox, we want to get it in your living room. and then deliver all kind, not just video games, and I know Sony does too, but Microsoft really wants to get in there and
yeah, mind you, that's
videos
also kind of where they fucked up with the Xbox One thing.
Right.
Because when they announced it, they were like, "Look, we'll be in your living room, and we'll be your TV, and we'll be all these things, and you can watch sports."
We don't
and everyone's like,
want that.
"Where are the video games?" I'm like, "We'll talk about it next month at E3." And everyone's like, "So, this is not a game console. Also, it's always online. What is going on?"
You can watch Netflix on it.
Yeah. So that focus on just like, we just want to be in your living room was honestly like a huge communication misstep for them.
And Sony has just rolled out exclusive after exclusive. Spider-Man's a great example of and they have clubbed them over the head with these fucking exclusives that are great. Yeah. But they sunk a lot of money. Kojima got kicked out of Capcom. Come on in. Konami, come on in. We'll fucking make a crazy ass Kojima game. It's brilliant. Like what they've done, Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted, all this shit.
What they're doing with their games lineup, I think, is absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
I'd like them to make some adjustments and be more like open and consumer friendly in terms of their ecosystem policies.
Yeah. Yep. Totally.
But that's also because I'm really annoyed right now that moving around trying to play a game on different consoles is like very much driving home to me that Sony's DRM is not as gentle as they like everyone to think.
Right.
It is very much a thing.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, it's fine. I got that off my chest. Okay. All right. So that about does it for this episode of Glitch Please. Lots of Spider-Man talk, lots of fun times, lots of segues into Underworld and Golden Girls.
Sorry, I won't be reading the
you.
comments. I don't read the comments on this thing, so feel free to say anything bad you want about me.
Wow, it's an invitation.
It's not like it's going to stop him anyways.
I'll read them. I'll defend your honor
Thank you.
in the comments. I'll be
Ryan's
like,
going to defend my
he's
honor.
not so bad in real life.
All right. So if you're a Rooster Teeth First member, make sure that you also catch New Game Plus, our first exclusive post show on our website, theno.tv. Also, this weekend, the first episode of Game Club. So you want to make sure that you are a Rooster Teeth First member. Check that out. It's going to be Doki Doki Literature Club. We're going to be talking about that. Cannot wait. It's going to be mental. I can't.
It's a fucking weird game you made me play for this club. This is a fucking weird game.
You're welcome. You are so welcome.
I'm not sure if I needed this game in my psyche.
You did. You did.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about that. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. That'll be exclusively on the website for First members this weekend. And we will, then next week is going to be Movie Club. We're watching Stardust.
Yes!
Anyway, so make sure you check all that out. If you're
Henry
not-
Cavill's in Stardust.
Oh.
He's a dick.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is gonna be great. I have it on my thing to watch this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm so excited, and now I'm
One of the rare times Henry Cavill has a British accent in a role he's playing.
weird. There's the number of
I forget
British
he's
actors.
British.
You know what? Hold on. I'm not
Sorry.
getting
Yeah,
sidetracked for this again. This is the end of the episode. Make sure that you're a Rooster Teeth First member. If
Yeah.
not yet, you can get a 7-day free trial so that you'll be able to watch the post show. You'll be able to join us for Game Club, and hopefully you'll decide to stick around. That's it. Get out of here. Goodbye.